Yeah. All right, go.
Do it now.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live!
Oh my goodness.
What's the matter?
Thanks for caring about people.
Oh, yes. Think you can handle that?
Coming to you live from Arcane Sublevel 7, it's Talk is Cheap. Now here's your host, Dan Hohlfeld.
All right, go.
Emerging.
Welcome to Talk is Cheap, where cheap is talk, and talk is cheap, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Dan Hohlfeld. Thank you so much for joining me. We're getting off to a little of a late start today. We had a little mishap with the time zone stuff. You gotta love that. Arizona does not switch their times like we do everywhere else, which actually they got it right, we got it wrong. So I think there should just be some kind of a universal time. We don't have to worry about any of the mishaps with all that causes, but we're going to get straight into it. Today's guest is M&MsM joining me. And M was a former senior consultant and system efficiency expert for the DIA and Pentagon. And Miss M is a renowned psychic remote viewer and psychic intuitive. And she's in connection with the Galactic High Council. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Hey,
Thanks for
nice to be
having us.
back.
Yeah.
So do you guys want to say your real names off the bat? I heard you do that on, I think it was Deep Disclosure.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, we had kept our identities private because to help protect our partners, and there's been somebody out there that's really gunning for us and threatening to expose us, and so we just thought we would take the power away. And so my name's Megan Martinez.
Matthew Schluter, nice to be here.
All right. So with that out of the way, you guys okay with taking phone calls later on?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So there's so much to break down. We got North Korea. I want to get into the galactic predictions. Those are going to be huge, I think. Currency changes and then timelines collapsing. One of the big things that I was looking at the news the other day is the whole Guantanamo plane that went down in, this was in Jacksonville, Florida. So it's coming from Guantanamo Bay and went down. Do you guys know anything about that?
This is the first I've heard
No,
of
I
it.
haven't even heard about that either.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I didn't know if that was the deep state doing something, because it was our people with their family, and it was just, I guess, a safety thing that went wrong on the runway there when they were trying to land.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I haven't heard about it yet, or they haven't shared anything with me about it yet.
Okay. So the other thing I wanted to get into, I know I mentioned this to you before, Matthew, was the Tom DeLonge Disclosure Initiative. So have you heard anything about that? Like, is this by the deep state?
Interesting. I'm not really familiar with that. We're tracking other things, paying close attention to things that matter to us that we know are sensitive in time and in, the opportunities at hand. So,
I did explore this a little bit just to feel into it. I watched some of the stuff and watched some of his talks, and the story sounds oddly familiar. So it seems to me like Tom DeLonge is another person like us who basically got tapped on the shoulder to do a job. And who knows why he was chosen to do this. But I don't think it's a nefarious program. Or if it is, I don't think that he is under that belief or awareness. I think that he's just a guy who got put into a position to do some disclosure.
Yeah, but they're kind of pushing the evil alien thing. That's what I'm worried about with it.
Oh yeah.
And granted, there is a few, but I mean, he's basically what it's coming down to. I played that clip on the other show, where he's like, most of them don't like us. We don't get along with most of them. So it's just like, it's disclosure. Don't get me wrong, but we did hear that the deep state was going to push this evil disclosure as their last card when they were going down. So I'm kind of thinking that he's working for them.
Yeah. Or, sometimes it's like you're only as good as the intelligence that you're getting. And so maybe he thinks he's doing the right thing, and that's what they're telling him to say. Or that's the narrative that they're sharing with him. So I don't think that him as an individual is purposely trying to mislead people is what I feel, just based on like tuning into his energy. Like, I don't think that it's that he is specifically trying to spread misinformation. He may just be getting bad intel.
Okay. Matthew, why don't you go ahead and get into the currency stuff?
all right. Well, what we're working on is because we know where all the keepers are that have all the bunkers and all the stashes of gold and all that kind of stuff. We've been arranging with top buyers of gold transactions. This is to work outside of the system to fund, like we're building, behind the scenes virtual private network replacement system whereby those tunnels are protected and we can move money, through this new system. So that's a two-prong approach. We're building the many people may have heard of SIPs, and so we're involved in that. Excuse me. And these gold stashes, we're going to be lifting them and moving the money. So this is all in concert for having a currency that is crypto, gold backed, along with being able to also move some of the other digital currencies through our new system. And as far as the elder accounts and all that kind of stuff go, that's a little bit on standstill right now because they're not really cooperating, I guess you could say. So we're taking matters in our own hands and doing what we can behind the scenes right now to prepare for everything we've been talking about, which is being able to do releases of the people that want to participate, these keepers, these other elders, because there's different demeanors across the field there with these ones that want to help and the ones that are too greedy. And so we've went through the network and found the ones that want to cooperate, and that's what we're working on currently.
It's funny because I think Trump tweeted something recently about China and wanting to renegotiate a deal that they had agreed upon, and that speaks a lot to what we've experienced working in the Asian world, that we will reach an agreement and we're ready to move forward. Contracts are signed. We're going to do it. We're going to release the funds. And the next day they want to renegotiate the terms. They want more. And so that's what we've kind of come up against in that area in the world. So we are, as a collective, moving on to plan B and taking matters into our own hands.
So yeah, plan B is you're gonna use crypto.
And gold, and work with hard assets and the numbers that are in their bank accounts that they can't move without the remember the lock and the key that's been talked about from one of our other partners. So this master general gentleman is kind of like the lock, and all the committee members are the key. They all have to agree, and then the final lock person triggers the activity. That's all for funds that are already in the old system. And so, we're just overstepping that entirely and saying we know where all the gold is, and the gold is something also that is going to be backing the new currencies. So those allocations would also, be able to trigger those new rainbow currencies that we talked about that would be coming out in 2022 is the set date for that. But anyway, because we have the underlying asset, we can just, jumpstart everything with it.
They also indicated the Galactics indicated that there is no new quantum financial system yet. It's yet to be built.
Well, our intel tells us that too. So all those blogs and whatever disinformation, I sure got a frog in my voice today.
Yeah.
That's circling out there is definitely that. It's disinformation. These systems that they claim are online and active and the like are not. And don't forget, we definitely get our high-level intel, and we do have some of the most advanced quantum and AI and everything else that we will be implementing through our system. That's a positive AI, of course. And, so also when we talk about having a better solution than 5G that's safer, faster, et cetera, our system is a complete system whereby the more advanced smartphone, the more advanced broadband, the safer Wi-Fi, the more intensely encrypted wallet, all of it will be a new platform, a global solution that will be sort of the saving grace.
Yeah, let's back up, because the 5G thing, people are scared about that frequency. Now Trump is for all that, so how is that going to work? Is there?
Well, he's not exactly for it. He's got to appease the opposition. They've spent a lot of money on that, and while he did tweet out about 6G, that's our team and everything that we're doing. So it's a difficult dance because the opposition has spent a lot of money on that, and he has to make it look like he's somewhat in support of it, but obviously mentioning 6G is what he really wants to do. And in essence, we have a lot of solutions along those lines that for example, that we can bring out. One is a 5G blocker that we're looking at. So you'll be able to,
Protect yourself from the frequency.
Which is needed, because I was going to say, the things that we're implementing, we're not implementing them here first. We're going to beta test, make sure everything's working and perfected, and before we, bring it to the U.S. So we'll need alternative fixes, band-aids, solutions that will be immediately available, because we understand the seriousness of this.
Yeah, we're definitely. A 5G tower went up here in Sedona, and then it came down. So I don't know what the deal is with that. But I can tell you that when it was up, those few short hours that it was up, the energy here shifted quite a bit, and it felt very chaotic. And we had a major accident right on our main highway that goes through town. So it is something that we're concerned about. And I'd like to also highlight and reiterate that Trump's under a lot of pressure, and not just pressure, but physical threat. So there have been many attempts on the guy's life. And one of the things that the Galactics said to us just a few weeks ago, or maybe a month or so ago now, was that he was asking for more protection. And so they highlight to us when there's a threat on his life, or when there's another coup being staged to try and usurp him or take him out of power. And so that's been happening quite regularly often, and so he said a couple of things that we're not really kind of in line with, and we have to assume it has something to do with self-preservation because of the risk that he is facing on a daily basis. And in fact, it was just yesterday when I was tuning in when they said that the relationship between him and Putin was actually really powerful because of the fact that Putin had figured out the security issues. Like he's pretty well insulated. He takes extreme measures to make sure that he's not his life is not at risk. And so that relationship, I think, is a very positive one for him to see that it's possible to kind of put yourself out there on a limb and still be protected, which Trump has been doing, but apparently not to the extent that he would hope. He doesn't feel as protected as he would hope. So yeah, we may see him kind of flip-flopping on some things in order to not get himself taken out.
Yeah, because the other thing was the vaccines.
Yeah.
Because at some point, though, he's got to
However,
drop the hammer down and say, because, I mean, now that he kind of endorsed it, he's kind of putting people in danger.
well, the reason he's doing that is because we know there is a real threat. The opposition is planning to do a measles epidemic, and so he's actually kind of warning people by saying that. He's indicating, pay attention. Maybe and the vaccine for measles is effective. We know that it does work, but you're getting a lot more in there than you would want. So it is a tough road to walk. How do you protect people without?
Well, I mean, that's just a speculation too. And let me clear that up as well. Is that maybe a month or so ago, maybe 6 weeks ago? I'd have to look through my notes to look at it to know the specific date. But the Galactics said to us that the cabal or the deep state was trying to create a new pandemic. And then after I saw that, I started to see these little nanobot or little weaponized mosquitoes that they were sending out. And I also was aware of the fact that they had been spraying kind of viral contaminations in the chemtrails that they were putting out. So we knew that there was some sort of pandemic coming, and then all of a sudden this measles thing pops up, right? So as far as like I'm sure there are a lot of anti-vaxxers listening that have done their research, as have I. We know that there's no efficacy reports on whether or not these things actually work, or if there's anything like herd immunity. So I don't understand exactly why Trump would say that, and simply because he's been anti-vax in the past, and there's been some speculation that his son may have been injured by a vaccination, and that's what caused him to take this stance publicly. So we're not exactly sure. We don't know if he's like, that's a Hail Mary, like cross your fingers that this thing doesn't spread, maybe get one of these things. But the other thing is that all of the recent measles outbreaks have come from recently vaccinated children. So that's how that one started in Disneyland a couple years ago. And so, yeah, we're kind of perplexed by this. We're kind of perplexed by, I don't know exactly why he would say that publicly. These are just our speculations as to why he might have said that.
Yeah, we should probably see if we can find more intel on that from some of our other deep throats. But again, our focus has been on moving money as fast as possible so that we can implement all the good solutions that we have. From the Medibed to the Dream Bed, which is even more advanced. So, we have a long list of alternative solutions that we, are eager to bring to the table. So,
yeah. So, what is the status on that technology? Is that we got to wait for the currency first?
No, we can fund it as soon as we make these moves and have fluidity, and so. We have the relationships with the people that want to participate. Individuals like maybe some people don't know these names, but say Mike Emery, of course M&MsM. There are those that Jared Rand that have had knowledge, experience, and actually built these devices.
Yeah, we have. the way that we have planned, we were just talking about this morning with our other financial partners about our rollout. So we have our personal little pet projects that we're doing here in Sedona that are more spiritually focused and on the delivery end. But the rollout of everything goes in a specific way, in that we're focused on technologies that are going to make a global impact first. So building the new financial system so that we can have safe route to move funds within, and then also funding projects like water cleanup, med tech, fintech, anything that's going to clean up the planet and improve people's lives on a global scale. Those are the ones that we're moving money into first.
Awesome. We got a person in the chat, Hanukkah. Let me see. Hackin says, Dan, can we define the Galactics specific? Can you elaborate on the Galactics?
Yeah. So for any of you that don't know me, like about 7 or 8 years ago, I was taken into the inner Earth, and I started communicating with those beings and receiving information from them, being downloaded with everything that I was meant to do to help with this process. And so they were some of my first contacts. And then after spending a couple years being briefed by them and brought up to speed, I started getting contacted by beings that are above the planet. And so I call them, in my personal life, I call them spirit, because that's really just a way to it's a kind of a blanket thing. They're not male or female or individual or plural. They're beings that are contributing. But when I started to receive and connect more in with them, they are basically ascended masters. They appear to me as ascended masters. So ones that we would be familiar with. So, and our main contacts up there is like the head of the Galactic Federation, let's say, the ones that are sitting on top of that federation. Those are the ones that are downloading information to us. So I'm getting information from above, from them. I'm getting information from below, from the inner Earth beings, and I'm also getting information from military personnel that are able to push things remotely.
And this is both through telepathic and in physical?
Yeah, I'm getting physical contact. But most days it's a telepathic connection, and and they're sending me images via like remote viewing. So I'm getting so on a daily basis, that's how the information is coming through. It's through my head, and then we're able to confirm and validate it with stuff that shows up on the news and from our intel sources here on the ground. And sometimes the information that I'm getting from the Galactics is ahead of what the military and intelligence agencies have on the ground.
Can you list those groups?
Which groups?
The Galactics, who they are, the names?
Well, I've again, they're ascended masters that you might recognize, like Jesus and Saint Germain and the Babas and El Moria and those types of characters. The Lady Masters, like Lady Master Venus and Mary Magdalene, and then there are also a host of other beings that I could not tell you who they are. They're just, and they're not non-human. So I have to filter the information. If it feels, you can. Telepathy is kind of a language. It's a language of feelings. So that's how I can tell if the information is accurate, or if this is someone trying to mislead me, or if their energy is not positive. It's very easy to detect. So I had an interaction with a being that I believe is some sort of elemental being out there. I don't know where they come from in the multiverse. I don't always ask. Honestly, I'm just getting information and seeing if it works. But this one had fire for a face. It had distinguishable features, but it was just like a flame on the head, and the energy was really intense, and it was like he was shouting at me. And so I I declined to interact with this person.
We've also been told those are jinns. That description fits jinns.
Yeah, and I also interacted with some little characters. They look kind of like the bankers that run the banks in Harry Potter. They're kind of like a mix between a goblin and Yoda, and they represented themselves as they come from a planet that's basically like a banking, like a vault planet. Where they store wealth, and that some of their people had gotten away or broken away, and they were responsible for some of the bad things that had happened here. And so they were coming forward to try and assist the Federation and assist the Alliance to take down their breakaway civilization that had contributed to negative things on the planet. So yeah, there's a different mix of people. I've interacted with golden beings, which are very high dimensional beings that
is that the golden triangle that Corey Good talked about?
No. No, these don't have triangle faces. The golden beings I actually have a photo of one that I can share with you, Dan. And they're basically like golden beings of light. It's just totally golden. They don't seem to have a gender or an age or anything. Their bodies are robes, but they're also bodies, and they're just a beaming light, and they just put out this really pure, unconditional love that comes from them. They're about 30 feet tall, I would say. I sat in the lap of one, and I was like a baby to this being, so I would say they're probably around 30 feet tall, and very positive in their energy.
So now that we're on the galactic topic here, some people want to hear that you got actually validation on this. So let's go through some of the stuff that actually came true that you talked about before.
Okay, so let's start with this one because this one's kind of recent. So, we talked about the measles thing, or we talked about the pandemic, and then we started to see one. And so, one of the other things is they've been talking for quite some time, the last few years, a lot about their disdain for the Vatican and the stuff that they've been doing. And so they've said to me that they have them in their crosshairs. They said that they're going to be reduced to rubble if they don't capitulate with the New World Plan. And then right after the Notre Dame fire happened, they said to me that was us. We did that. So as in the Alliance was responsible for it. So they said they were sending a message to the Pope with this, and that they were shutting down the catacombs. And then shortly after that, I saw a video of somebody outlining basically there's a ritual that happens that day, mass human sacrifice, and something about the catacombs under Europe. So there was a confirmation and validation that really was what was going on there, and that was a maneuver from the Alliance. And so the subsequent attacks that happened after that on the Christian churches and were a backlash for having interrupted this process. So that was one. A few nights, or I guess few months ago, I was woken up in the middle of the night, and they started to outline to me a nuclear deal. So I'll say this: when these messages come in, they're not always very clear. It's not like you have a voice just talking to you like you're having a phone conversation. You'll get images, feelings, and words, and you kind of have to piece them together. So what they showed me an image of Putin. They showed me an image of basically cooling towers, which are on a nuclear plant, to let me know that this was a nuclear deal. And they told me there was going to be a nuclear deal between Russia and the United States and one other Asian country. And they showed me a flag, which I looked up, and it was the flag of China. And they said it was, this deal was going to happen, and that it would be really good for the people. So just last week, Trump met with Putin. And I will say one other thing spoke to him. And one other thing about this, one other thing that they told me to look for was the fall of Maduro as being a pivotal point for the alliance. So there's something going on in Venezuela that the deep state wants to keep that going. They don't want it to end. And so they're saying that the end of the fall of Maduro is a major turning point. So when Putin and Trump spoke, one of the topics was what they could do on a humanitarian level to help the people of Venezuela. So we're moving in that direction. That's confirmation for me. They also spoke about a nuclear deal between Russia, China, and the United States, and having to do with and that being a positive move forward. So we've got that nuclear deal. And then now I don't know if this is an energy deal, as in it's about future energy, or if it's about dismantling the nuclear programs of the past. So that's what's unclear about that when they showed me the cooling tower. So they could have just shown me a bomb, but I wouldn't really know the difference between what's a nuclear bomb and what's a regular bomb. So they showed me these cooling towers so that I know it had something to do with nuclear power. Now, so they said, so this is what they said, and I'm sorry, let me just sorry, there's a lot of information. So they told me this deal was going to happen, which we saw happen. We're seeing the beginning stages of it. They also told me that there would be a new world trade deal, and that this new world trade deal would be very beneficial for the population, and that it would mark, the beginning of a new global economy that was positive, that people could participate in, that wasn't predatory. And so that was another thing that was discussed during that meeting with Putin and Trump, that there is a new trade deal going on, and China and Russia are a part of it. And so another thing that they had told me, and this went against some of the military intel that we had, was that after the last meeting with Kim Jong-un, not this last one that happened between Kim Jong-un and Putin, but the one that happened prior, where Trump was overseas meeting with them, that ended abruptly. They said, this is not the end of these peace deals. This is not the end of these peace talks. It's not over. This is just it's either for optics because there's something going on behind the scenes that they want to keep private, or it's just a minor setback. So that it will go back on track, and that North Korea would uphold their end and disarm their nuclear weapons and be part of a peace treaty that will end up being global.
Awesome. I gotta ask about. We also talked about the Justin Trudeau controversy.
Yes, they had highlighted to me in a reading that I was doing for a Canadian person that Justin Trudeau is going to face some sort of scandal that would, disgrace him. They didn't say if it would get him out of power, but they did say basically there would be somebody else coming in after, and that somebody else would be more like the Canadian Trump, and it would be moving things for Canadians in the right direction, and that this would actually end up in a boost for their economy. And they said eventually Canada would be outside of the crown rule, that they would be for the first time in history an independent nation. Now, funny enough that you brought this up, because yesterday when I was channeling, they showed me Australia, and they said something about the Australian Prime Minister. I think they have a Prime Minister down there being also caught in a scandal, and I think it has something to do with child trafficking down there, or pedophilia rings, and saying that this was the initiation for ending the crown dominance over any other country. So basically they were saying that no one family, no one bloodline, no one person has the right to rule over anybody else or hoard wealth that is not elected or a representative of the people. So this is the beginning of a dismantling of this. And so Canada is a territory of the crown, as well as Australia. So we did see Justin Trudeau get caught up in this scandal like it was predicted by Spirit. And now I believe we're starting to see the beginning stages of the rest of this dismantling.
Awesome. Love to hear that. I think it's a good time to take a break, and on the other side I want to ask you about the 3 days of darkness and Nibiru and how all that might coincide. So we'll come back in about a couple minutes and go from there.
All right.
All right.
Rock.
Have your voice heard today. Call into the show at 1-605-562-0444. Show ID 146509.
Please hang up and try again.
On sale now at the K2D4 Network store. We have a wide range of shirts to get the message out to the public. The Disclosure Now with Fisty, break through the wall of suppression. End the cover-up with UFO T. Let the public know that there is more going on than we know, and it is time to bring out the suppressed technologies and advance civilization once and for all. The signature, talk is cheap, it's time for disclosure. The Disclosure/Now T. Very simple but very effective message. It is time to change the world, and let's begin right now. And last but not least, the official K2D4 Network shirt. Support the broadcast and get yours at k2d4network.com.
Have a comment, question, or topic suggestion? Call our voicemail at 1-256-510-5234. That's 1-256-510-K2D4.
You're listening to Talk is Cheap with Dan Hohlfeld on the K2D4 Network. Broadcasting worldwide, it's Talk is Cheap.
Welcome back to the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. We are live here with M&MsM of Deep Disclosure. And yes, the phone lines are now open if you wish to call in and get your question on the air. That's 1-605-562-0444, 1-605-562-0444. Put the caller ID in 146-509-pound, and we'll get you up on the air with M&MsM. So one of the audience in the chat here says, so the Alliance was the ones who removed the precious art pieces 4 days prior to the fire in the Notre Dame. Do we know that?
I can't confirm that. That's not what they said. That's not what they said to me, but so it's possible that they were the ones that took it out. I would be speculation. They didn't say specifically to me. They simply said these few words. They said, Notre Dame, that was us. We sent a message to the Pope, and we're shutting down the catacombs.
That's interesting. So touching on the event. Okay, the event is supposed to happen this month. Is that correct?
Okay, so I'll say that there is something happening. There's something going on right now. They told me there would be a massive solar event within 6 months, and that was back in November. And so we feel something going on right now. We're in the middle of solar storms and massive waves of energy hitting the planet. And so this is so it's quite possible. Now there's something going on, and I can feel the energy intensifying on a daily basis and I'm physically feeling a lot of stuff going on. And every time someone brings up the sun or what's going on with it, they come in very quickly. And since I was sitting in the backyard and my ears started ringing on Sunday, and I'm like, what is this? What are you guys talking about? And this kind of urgency, and they keep interrupting people's readings with it as well, that it's coming, it's happening, it's coming. And so they said to me a few days ago that they had been able to stabilize what was going on with the sun a little bit, but they didn't know how long it would hold. And they said there's a couple of gateway windows. They keep highlighting solar activity in May and July.
Interesting. So when this wave comes in, like, what are we supposed to do? Are we just supposed to get outside and embrace when it hits?
Well, I think you'll feel it regardless if you're inside or outside. Some of the waves that have been coming in have felt like very positive, very like ecstatic and positive energy, and they have said to just turn and face it and let it flush over you. They've also encouraged everyone to get their emotional houses in order, because what happens, just like with this massive wave and the ones that have been building up to this, what they do is they amplify whatever is inside of you. So if you're in a bad mood, it's going to be extremely bad. If you're feeling chaotic, you're going to feel extremely chaotic. And the anger and all the lower vibrational things will be amplified the same way as the positive ones would. So they're encouraging everybody to work on their emotional stuff, work on their emotional baggage, let go of everything that's not serving you, let go of things that are holding you back so that you can receive this in a positive way. But the overall consensus that I'm getting from them is that this is a positive thing that will help to push the consciousness of our planet. They said it may have some electrical interference issues, which we've seen as the solar energy increases. I'm getting way more electrical interference. And so it may have an effect on those things. And that also, because of the intense energy, that we may see people have either heart attacks or strokes in increasing numbers leading up to this event and during the event. So the more that we can be ready to receive, the more that we can ground and anchor that energy in, the better it's going to be for us when it happens.
I sure hope something happens. I think some people need that to shake them out. You know, they're stuck in their little reality, and I think seeing something would make that happen. So speaking of seeing something, have you heard about the 3 days of darkness?
I have heard about the 3 days of darkness. The Spirit has talked to me about that, and they've mentioned, you know, there will be 3 days of darkness, and I don't know if this is literal or symbolic.
Right. Yeah, because that's what I would wonder too, because
yeah,
they might just be symbolically saying it. And then I did a lot of research with the 3 days, or the sun, and you guys were on these ships out there, so I got to ask you point blank. Is there something hiding the real sun, and are they mimicking the sun with some technology?
Okay, so my understanding about what the sun is that it's a portal. So not a solid, but a portal. So like I've seen images, they've shown me things like people coming in and out of the sun, or ships, or and I say people, I mean beings, ships coming in and out of the sun. And a while back they said the portal was destabilizing, and so a lot of the ships that were out were coming back into our solar system because they wanted to make sure that they didn't get stuck out there. And so there were a lot of people kind of coming in at a rapid pace. And if you look at the sun, you know, it looks a little bit different than it did when I was growing up. I grew up with an orange yellow sun, and it's turning into a white blue sun. So they basically have been alluding to me, like they said, you know, a star will fall from the sky, or the sun will die, a new sun will be born. And what they're telling me is that this is kind of a transition. So we're going from this orange yellow sun into a blue white sun, which is a higher frequency, more intense, and can happen when the planets surrounding it are at a higher frequency. And so that's kind of why we're going through this process now, so that we can survive this change of our sun and still live in harmony with it. So there have been pieces of it breaking off, like mass coronal ejections that are coming to our planet and the surrounding planets, and so it's possible that maybe they are putting a projection up so that you can't see this happening.
That's what I'm wondering, because for folks watching on screen, I got a sun. It's like a sun simulator thing. It's got 144 of these octagon pieces on it. Now NASA's building this, and they want to send it to Mercury, but we do have a photo here that looks like there is one in the sky already. Now the idea is that they're blocking something, an celestial object. Some people are thinking it's Nibiru or whatever. You know, maybe it gets close to the sun, so they have to block it when you could see it. So they use a cloak, and then in front of that cloak, they put this fake sun object and then turn it on. I just wondered if you were on the ship, you could see something. Yeah, I suppose it wouldn't be terribly big or anything, but I mean, there's evidence of it. That's what's so scary about it, because when you put all the puzzle pieces together.
There was it's funny enough, there was a little bit of a disclosure about this on the show, the Orville. They used that false sun to create a star in the sky, and change what was going on this on a particular planet. So there's been some disclosure around that, and I have seen photos, and I don't know if these are photoshopped or what, but I have seen photos that people have posted online seeing two suns in the sky. So maybe that's why they're seeing them. Now, I want to talk about Nibiru a little bit, because there's something interesting that happened about 2 years ago. This is 3 years ago now. Back in 2016, I was outside and I was talking to the stars, talking to the beings up there, whoever listened to me, and I'm like, okay, when is this happening? Like, how long I got to go through this process? How do I know when we're at the end of this, or we've made progress? And they said there's going to be a new bright star in the sky, as in like a new North Star, a star that was brighter than the North Star. There'd be a new North Star. And so at the time, I was having a lot of really profound experiences, because I was doing, I was channeling, and I was working in a roundabout way for a 3-letter agency, and I was in the field about 8 hours plus a day. And so because of that, I was having a lot of crazy experiences, because more time you spend in the field, the more your world starts to blur. Like the two worlds kind of overlap, and you're kind of living in both of them. So during that time, I was taken to a place that I referred to as the in-between, or the place between worlds. And it was very like gray, monochromatic, kind of like a gray day that you would have, but no rain. Nothing was as bright or vivid as you would see it on the earth here, or some of the other places that I've visited. And I was walking between two walls of very thick fog. And I was alone, but there was a voice guiding me, talking to me, telling me where to go. So I walked up to a place, and I stopped, and they said, okay, now like stick your hand through the fog. So I stuck my hand through, and a hand on the other side grabbed me, and then they did what felt like a binding ceremony. It was like one of those old wedding ceremonies where they would wrap a strap or a ribbon around the hands and bind the two people together. So they wrapped this leather strap. It looked like the Teflon strap that Jews or Hasidic Jews used to pray with, and the one that they wrap around their arm. So this was wrapped around my hand, and some other hand through the veil that I had no idea who it belonged to. They wrapped us together, and then they said, okay, now pull. And so I pulled my hand back, and everything kind of shifted and tilted, and then they said, okay, it's done. And they released my hand from the binding, and I pulled my hand from the fog, and they're like, okay, you can go home now. They said, be careful when you go back to your planet, because the heavens and the earth are closer together now. So all your manifesting abilities are stronger. So be careful about what you're thinking about and what you're putting your energy into. And then I left, and I came home. Well, the next day, when I went outside, Venus was bigger and brighter than it had ever been. And now Venus is as I've learned from Matthew, because I'm not really knowledgeable about astrology, is either like a morning star or an evening star that rises in the morning or in the evening, and you only see it for that specific time. Well, after this happened, Venus was in the sky all night long, and it was bigger and brighter than any other star that was out there. And it was at this time that our planet moved from a tail on the outside of the Milky Way galaxy closer to the center of our galaxy. And so we moved from one place to another. And when I asked them about why this happened, and at the same time, natives were reaching out to like NASA and other skywatch agencies, saying that the stars had moved, that we were no longer in the same position that we were in before. Now, they said to me that the reason for this was because they wanted to pull us out of the gravitational pull of Nibiru, so that we would not have a pole shift, and to also protect us from an asteroid or a comet that was headed towards the Earth and was going to make impact. And so that was 3 years ago, and I have seen shiftings of timelines since then. Before that, I was seeing major catastrophes that took out both the West Coast and the East Coast, and left, something similar to the I Am America map in the United States. And so they said the reason for this, again, was that a pole shift at this point would destroy 90% of the Earth's population. And they did not want that to happen because even though obviously we're all eternal in our life, you don't ever really die, that a loss on that scale made a major energetic impact on both the Earth and the people that survived it, and that they didn't want to set back the progress that the Earth had made. And so this was the reason for the move they had laid out for me. So I don't know if Nibiru is still a threat to us, but it may still be visible up there.
I think it was 2 years ago. I had a vision. A lot of people had these visions. I think they're still having them. I had you saw the sun on the left side. It was behind some clouds, and then over on the right was a bigger celestial object. It looked like a second sun, but it had the flower of life symbol on it, which is really like, how do you say, symbolic? Like, is that? I don't know. It just seems like, and then when you put it together with the 3 days of darkness and then blocking something out, and then you think, okay, the event happens and that destroys the electrical grid and it shuts them down, and then all of a sudden you get a planet that'll appear there. Because some people say in their vision it's like it jumps in like from another dimension, but that would make perfect sense if you have your electrical grid goes down and then it appears. So when you just put the puzzle pieces together, I really think that they could be hiding something up there, and maybe it has to do with Nibiru.
It could be shielded. We don't even know what the Earth actually looks like. And I'm not talking about it being flat or round. It's obviously a round sphere. But there are islands on this planet that are not depicted on maps and that cannot be seen if you were to fly over them. They have holograms that are protecting them. And so I started seeing some of these islands, and they started showing me where they were. And I'd go look at a map and I'm like, there's nothing here. There's nothing right here. And I actually went and I asked some of our military intelligence people, and they were like, how do you know about these?
Oh, wow.
So, and I believe, and I know there's a lot of speculation right now about whether or not Corey Good is telling the truth, but I believe he's mentioned some sort of technology that can camouflage these islands. So if we're not being able to see everything that's on the Earth, chances are we're not seeing everything that's up in the sky either. And a lot of us don't even look up there. And also, I think this is a good time to bring up the whole timeline shift and the timelines collapsing, because it's possible that planet with the flower of life on it, which could be some sort of super Earth or some other, thing, could exist in another dimension, another time, and we just don't see it. Like for instance, I was tuning in to somebody on our financial team who had traveled quite a bit to Mars, and I'm like, what are you doing on this nasty little planet? Like, it looks so ugly out there. What's going on? Why are so many people going out there? Well, they showed me that Mars is actually completely terraformed in a different dimension. It's just what we see in the third dimension is what it looks like, but in a different dimension, it's a kind of lush, beautiful, completely terraformed planet. So again, we're limited by the eyes that we have to see things. So as our consciousness shifts and timelines collapse and we are integrated with the rest of, reality, we might be able to see more things than we're seeing right now.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, I've been seeing the number 144. You know how you always see 1111, 111. I've been seeing 144 a lot. Do you even know what that means?
Well, it's a very interesting number because it's one of the degree points on a 360-degree compass. If you drop a pentagram on it, of course, you got one of the points touching 72, then 72 plus 72 is 144, and then another 72 brings you to 216. And so these are sacred numbers. All the numbers that add up to 9 are more sublime and powerful. And so I think it's an indication of, this higher level of activation, initiation, activating the crown chakra, the seventh seal. This is the time that we're in. And, many things are being revealed, tools and ways for us to tune in deeper to who we are and have access to our multiverse self. And so when these numbers show up, they go through transitions, because I was seeing 1122, 20 plus years ago, and I wasn't seeing 1111. I was seeing a whole different set of number series. And so, that's what my videos are about, are, talking about the numbers that I have been seeing. And so I think that it's an increase in our consciousness, and that, our higher self and spirit communicate with us when we have a bigger palette of colors. So like 1111 or 222, that's just sort of black and white. But when you start to have other number series, like let's say 153 is a real powerful one. And all of them that add up to 9, like 432, for example, these are very significant number sequences, and they do activate our DNA to a higher level of consciousness.
Interesting.
There's also the element of that 144 being a part of the creation story. So
from the Bible, of course, but they talk about the 72 hidden names of God. They talk about the 144,000. These are sort of like the chosen ones that wake up. We've talked about the transition that we're in, being wave after wave of people waking up. And so, it could also pertain to the 144,000. But these, again, when creation and the beings that created everything unfurled or, bifurcated themselves, they did it along these sacred number patterns. These are also like the Fibonacci sequence. And so there's a series or a set of sacred number sequences that everything unfolds from. And that is all built into the flower of life, by the way, and the tree of life, and all these things carry these number patterns. And that's, again, what a lot of my work around the seventh seal is about, is revealing different, deeper aspects of these things.
Deplorable RAI asks in the chat, who is behind the crop circles?
Well, I believe that it is some of these beings from the future. I think that we have beings from everywhere: ultradimensional, interdimensional, extradimensional. So I tend to think that whatever race of beings that are from the future are the ones that are guiding us the most. And I think that they have far more advanced capabilities, and that they're the ones that are leaving us these messages. What is your hit on that?
Well, I'm getting some insight from upstairs.
Okay, love to hear.
And they're saying that those, we're responsible. So off-planet beings doing it, and they're saying that they're not just the images obviously have symbolic meanings, but that they're actually frequencies. So if you were to play this frequency, there would be a message within it.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, I think it was Stephen Greer who made that got the tune from the crop circle and put it on his app.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I gotta touch back on the currency here real quick. So it's gonna take some time to transform. You said 2022. Is there a plan to get rid of the income tax?
Well, yeah, that's already unfolding. We talked about that before. HR 25. So the alliance wants to eliminate that, as well as the Federal Reserve. So those things are, going on. We don't really anticipate that until that time frame. However,
it's going to be a lot easier to do some of this stuff in the second term of Trump's presidency, and I'm convinced that there is a second term, based on not only the information that the Galactics have shared with me, but from other really profound prophets that have walked the planet as well. So I think that we'll see a lot more disclosure and a lot more progress in the second term of the Trump presidency, and I think we'll see some of this stuff happening then.
Well, and my however was going to also be, the things that we're working on, the things that we're guided to do, I guess you could say, by orchestrating all these pieces. A lot of it comes from what the Galactics and Spirit, indicate as, based on all the information that's being provided, are the best next steps. And so we did have a plan A, and now we've shifted to a plan B because of, interference and timelines that we wanted to implement that didn't occur because, the people that needed to be in agreement still were coming from greed. And so, but anyway, that's really important to mention that, we really have come to trust the information that we get from Megan. It's been demonstrated over and over to be extremely accurate. And so all of us that are part of this team are, taking the lead, taking their lead for us implementing what we're here on mission to accomplish.
Yeah, we get like 3 types of information from them. They give us planetary information, astrological information, like what's going on with our solar system and the sun and everything, and then they give us information about what's going on the political landscape, and then they give us mission and critical information about how we are supposed to do our job here. So a lot, obviously that information stays private. We're not talking about that on the radio.
Well, maybe you can shout me a few hints after the show.
Yeah.
So the only reason I said that the income tax, because you want to talk about economic boom that we're supposed to have in 2019, get rid of that tax. That would free up a lot of stuff. So go ahead and talk about the boom a little bit. So we got gold and silver.
Yeah.
Also playing a part.
Which is funny, and I don't want to say too much about the metals because it's something that we're working on right now. But there's an what we've been working on recently to me was okay, this is why the metals are doing so well this year. So again, gold and silver, and specifically gold, doing well in 2019. Now they spoke to an economic boom, which we're seeing that happen right now, and it might not be as booming as people thought it would be, and we're not at the peak of it yet. So they were saying that maybe not the peak, but really ramping up mid 2019. So we're kind of going into that now, and you're seeing some of the numbers coming out from the current administration, in that our unemployment rates are lower than they have been are the lowest they've been since 1969. We have a tremendous amount of job growth, and the economy overall is doing very well. So I would say it's continuing to move in the right direction. And then of course, mid 2019 is, I believe, based on what we're working on, is a breakthrough point for the global financial reset, which I think is another thing that will boost the economy. When we have money flowing into these humanitarian projects, that's more money moving. That's more flow for the entire economy, for everybody. And what they said to me a couple years ago, and this goes again back into the planetary alignments, was that the silver gate would be the gate of abundance. So there's 2 gateways. There's the silver gate and the golden gate. The silver gate happens on 5/22. The golden gate happens on 11/22. The golden gate is a gate of consciousness. They said it's an expansion of consciousness. The silver gate is the gate of abundance. And so when we're able to pass through that gate, then we're able to access the abundance that's been set aside for the golden age. And so
Silver Gate being 5/22.
Yeah, we're marching up to that point right now, and it's also in alignment with other things have been prophesized for this time. Like for instance, Kim Clement, who was a really amazing prophet. Yep. If you go back to the Esther prophecy in the last Trump, he talks about a woman rising to power in the middle of the Trump administration, And so this would be, we're kind of getting up to the middle of it now. If there is a second term, which we believe there will be, he said that this happens because of a solar event that takes place and because of medical breakthroughs that take place, that this woman is allowed to rise to power and shift what's going on the planet. And so, again, I just want to reiterate that there's a number of things pointing to this specific time, and we represent, as a collective, as our group, both the spiritual revolution that's occurring and the financial revolution that's occurring. So I believe that what we're doing has something to do with the increase in the economic boom, but the boom is well underway. And obviously there's a lot of naysayers out there. There are a lot of people that don't want Trump to be successful in what he's doing, and they will knock down everything that's being put forward as evidence that the economy is doing very well. But numbers don't lie. So all we have to do is erase the feelings and emotions and look at the actual numbers and see that the economy is growing and doing well.
Yeah, and he's slated to win in a landslide for 2020.
That's what the Galactics said, that it's a landslide victory. There is no question this time that he is the true victor of this election, that he won the last time fair and square, and he will win this time at a greater margin.
Awesome. Yes, maybe they can quit whining about it sometime. Oh, they'll never quit. Can you guys touch upon what the plan is with Hillary and Obama?
Well, interesting enough, there was something that just came up from the Galactics recently saying, so they've been kind of on the fence now. So I'll say this, that Obama on the other side, in the higher dimensions, is actually on the side of the light. He's a good guy. And so it's been tremendously difficult to see him fall from grace here on the earth plane and see what's happened. But again, you have to understand that he was intervened on at a very young age and groomed for the job that they put him into, and that a lot of the stuff that he did as a president was under duress. And so after his presidency, there was a lot of attempts from the Galactics or the Alliance to preserve his legacy and not have him basically be disgraced publicly because of what his presidency represented for the people, in that it was a sign of progress and a sign of diversity. And I know that, there's a lot put into the whole race thing and it's way blown out of proportion, but it is important for the people and the collective consciousness to see progress and to see diversity and as something that's moving forward. So they didn't want to kind of disgrace him. However, he's had multiple opportunities since leaving office to kind of turn to the side of the light and step away from the friends that he had made while he was in office, and he has not done that. And so they said recently that unfortunately they're not going to be able to keep him out of the muck. Like, he's going to be swimming in it with all the other players, and so he will be disgraced. They've indicated to me that a couple years ago they said that Hillary's soul would be extinguished and that she would not be allowed to reincarnate. They've indicated to me a number of times, and this has been confirmed from high-level intel sources on the inside, and I mean by non-civilians, because we're getting pretty high-level intel on this side, that she was actually very near death. They've indicated that she's not in good enough health to even face the consequences of what she would do, and that she would basically receive her consequences on the other side. So I think she's very near death. But they continue to highlight heads rolling, executions. I've seen, them hanging from the gallows. I've seen them being executed, head chopped off. And so I continue to see these things, which I can only believe that is an indication of this is where things are going for them. However, there has been kind of a conflict or kind of split decision around what was important for everyone to know. Would it be beneficial for everyone to know just how dirty and dark these players are? How would that help? How would that help the global stage? How would it help the rebuilding? Would it disillusion people to the point that they would just unplug and not know what to do? I mean, imagine, okay, all the people listening, right? We all went through an awakening of knowing exactly what was going on this planet and the darkness, and you can kind of fall down that rabbit hole and really go down and deep, and it's in the beginning it can be kind of defeating, like, oh my God, this is so terrible. How will we ever climb out of this darkness? And it can be kind of defeating, and the people outside of our bubble of consciousness, they're about to have their idols ripped from them. They're about to have all those people fall off their pedestals. Their gods are going to be exposed. What does that do to them? How do they react to that? Is this a positive thing? Is this a constructive thing? Or are they ready to handle that? Or do we see more of this cognitive dissonance? Do we see more backlash? So there's been kind of a back and forth as to what needs to be disclosed in order to make this work, and what's beneficial to disclose and what's harmful to disclose to the people. So I don't know that any of the court proceedings or the executions or any of the removal of power will ever be televised.
Well, it's kind of a shame, but I can see it like it would cause an issue for some people that are so into like you said, their idols and stuff like that. They believed in the false idol, and see them get destroyed would lead to a collapse of civilization, if you will. So do you want to get into, there's a couple questions in the chat I want to get to, but the release of the Mueller report leading to the Democrats issue?
Well, they indicated that the release of this report would be another turning point for us and the battle for the light, and that basically it would disgrace a lot of Democrats, and it would expose their crimes. And I think this is, again, what's ensnaring Obama in all of this. I think that is the actual thing that takes him down or makes him fall from grace, because this happened under his administration. He was aware of it and participated in it. And as more of it gets disclosed, and the Democrats are really pushing to get this all out in the open against their better interest to do so, it's going to actually end up in a backlash against them. So the more that they push to have things released, the more things that they don't want released are going to come out, and it's going to end up disgracing them and making it very difficult for them to succeed in any sort of election.
Awesome. Third Eye View in the chat says he wants to, I know we talked about this on the other show you guys were on, but the chemtrails, any update on that? Are we still waiting for their supplies to be extinguished?
Well, they're going to keep happening as long as there are non-terrestrial beings living on the planet that can't handle the high frequency. So we're going to see that be one of the last things that goes away as we dismantle the cabal. One interesting thing about it is that we've been having really heavy spraying here in Sedona. And obviously they're combating against the solar energy that's coming in. Now, one thing that happens is that they will spray the entire sky and you can still see the chemtrails. But then all of a sudden this cloud front moves in and you can't see the sky at all through it. And on Sunday, this was another one of the things that came through when they were talking about the sun. They said to me that there are actually ships up there that are spraying something that is containing these chemtrails inside of a cloud, so that they're not falling down onto the people here. And so they're trying to fight back against them from up there. And obviously we all want to see these things gone. They've become more nefarious. They're throwing all kinds of nasty stuff at us with these chemtrails. And so we all want to see it end. I just don't know that it will until it might be one of the last things that we see go. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's unfortunate. If we can speed that up at any cost, we will.
I would say here in Wisconsin, I've noticed less, knock on wood, because it's actually, I can almost go a week now without seeing some, then I'll see a little bit. It wasn't as heavy as it was before. But it sounds like Sedona gets hit pretty bad down there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think it has something to do with the solar waves that are coming in. They're really trying to prevent the energy from reaching us.
Right.
And them, because they can't handle it. Like, basically, a lot of them have been forced underground because of the higher solar energy. They've been forced to live underground because they can't handle our sun.
Is there any other predictions you guys can let us in on?
Yeah, these are some ones that haven't happened yet, and so I'll go out on a limb. I'll share them with you. See how these ones pan out.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, obviously, I talked about the fall of Maduro, and that's something that hasn't happened yet. We'll see. Well, hopefully, we'll see that happen. There are timelines collapsing. They said that this would be a continuation kind of the Mandela effect, that some of these things would be disappearing. And so it wouldn't be like someone like you know, your brother dies and you know about it. It would be like your brother never existed. Now that's an extreme example of this. But it could be something like, you know, McDonald's never existed. And it's just removed from people's consciousness. So what they're saying is that as we move forward with progress, reaching our goal, that outlying timelines are just disappearing. So and they're kind of like collapsing into the one unity consciousness timeline. And I felt this again on this was again on, I think, Sunday. This happened. I was going to get in the shower, and I checked to see if this was Friday. Sorry, this was Friday. I want to make that clear because other people can feel this stuff happening physically. So Friday midday, I was getting ready to go out. I was going to take a shower, and I went to check to see if I had towels hanging on the hook before I got in, and I noticed that I didn't have any fresh towels out. So I went to the laundry room and I got some, and I set them on the counter, got in the shower, and as I'm getting out of the shower, there, lo and behold, are the towels that I thought that were not there before. So there was some sort of timeline shift, some sort of timeline collapsing that happened. And so I think we're going to continue to see an increase in this. That's something that I am predicting. And let's see. I can't think of anything else on the top of my head.
That's awesome, because I would like more prominent ones. I always, you get these logo changes and stuff. It's like, well, did somebody just remember it wrong? And if you can see that stuff, like, I definitely know it was that way, like more in your face, then it can start waking some people up.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, they said that, here's another one. So a while back, they told me that we were going to start seeing animals that we previously thought were extinct. And they said none of these animals actually were extinct, that they had been moved to another dimension in order to preserve them, to protect them. And they said, as we vibrate higher and higher, we're going to start seeing these animals return. It's not because they're returning, it's like we're re-merging with where they are. And so they said, as they show up, take this as a sign that you're moving in the right direction, that things are moving in a positive way, and that you're vibrating at a higher frequency, and that's why you're seeing them.
That's already happened. I mean, I have reports from people that were out hiking. I forget exactly what, when, and where, but the remark was that some bird that was extinct they saw. So that was only like a couple weeks ago.
Can you think of any other predictions that I haven't shared that haven't happened yet?
Not offhand.
Yeah, because you talked about on the other podcast about the weather being the right prediction for the.
Yeah, they said that there was going to be a really cold winter, a cold snap, and then it would be followed by a wet spring, which as soon as the spring initiated, we had massive flooding in the central states, and we're in the middle of 6 or 7 day rainstorm here in Sedona, which is not typical. The Southwest has been in a drought for the last couple of years, so this is definitely a shift in the weather.
And David Wilcock thinks that has to do with the Cabal losing their weather weapons.
Yeah, there was an indication of that. So if you noticed, there was a massive drought in California, and it was worse than anyone that I had experienced there before. But there was an indication from the Galactics that it had something to do with HARP technology. They were drying the state out to cut off some of the food source, because California supplies a lot of food to other parts of the world and the United States, and also so they could burn it out. Like this, they could do more of these fires, right? It would be easier to burn stuff. Well, right after the 2016 election, it began to pour in California, and it began to pour it just rapidly. It caused a lot of flooding and mudslides, and some of the lakes and reservoirs that were really depleted were filled within a number of days. So there was an indication from the Galactics that they had shut down the HARP technology that was aimed at California, and that because of that, all the water that was being stored right up above us that wasn't coming down was able to be released.
Speaking of Wilcock, by the way, he was here at the Cosmic Awakening conference just recently, and I had an opportunity to meet with him privately. We had a 6-hour conversation about some of the things that we're doing, who we are, etc. But I also had a unique opportunity to see what he was presenting, which he's never presented before. Apparently he's going to present this at Contact in the Desert also, and show him how what he's talking about has a deep correlation with the Seventh Seal and the information that I've been bringing through. And so that was quite fun. And I actually created a video recently that's up on my YouTube channel, /Matthew Hotep. And it talks about some of those highlights and some of the various things that are complementary. And by the way, the Galactics even indicated that, they had planned that we would all work more closely together. And so I invited that, that we could be doing more deep disclosure, more, of the sacred geometry reveals. And so it's being contemplated. So we'll see what comes of that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're probably going to wrap up here pretty quick. I want you guys to talk about the Seventh Seal Summit. But before you do, there's a guy in the chat. I want to just prove here, folks, that I'm not afraid of a question or anything. He wanted me to ask you about JFK. Do you know if JFK is alive?
Junior?
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to confirm that, honestly. We've heard the rumors as well, but nobody has shared that intelligence with us, not the Galactics or the military or intelligence agencies that we're with. So we wouldn't be able to say that. However, I will say this, and that JFK was involved in the removal of the deep state. That's what had him assassinated, and that his reincarnation is alive and well and on our team. And so he's involved in the takedown of the deep state once again and changing the global financial landscape. So there is a tie-in to JFK and what is going on. It's possible that JFK Jr. is alive and is aware of this information and has been continuing his father's work. And the soul of JFK has reincarnated on the Earth plane. I've seen him. I know him. I work with him, and he's a part of our movement. So there is a tie-in to JFK and what's going on right now.
How did you know that it was him? Was it like, does he know himself that he was reincarnated?
No. There'd been some speculations about it, but it was when I was doing a ceremony on the beach with a bunch of people in South Florida, and he was present, and I saw the spirit of JFK like lift up out of him. So I saw it happen, and now that seems like kind of a crazy statement, but when
Well, it was a confirmation for me, quite
Yeah.
frankly, because I have some unique gifts and abilities that I don't usually come out with, but I can see who people are in their past lives, and that's something that I saw in this individual before this even happened.
And I will say that reincarnation is very much real, and it's a major like component to why we're doing the things that we're doing, why we got tapped for the jobs that we have, and that we've had confirmations of these reincarnations. When I was beginning my journey on this path and trying to find my team here, it was through those previous incarnations that I was able to find them, and they were validated by multiple psychics and people who study reincarnation. And we also have, I'll say this, I don't know if this is going. We have the reincarnation of Peter on our team as well. Peter the apostle who created the Catholic Church, and that's been verified and confirmed by the church.
So both JFK and this Peter guy, they're not in the civilian sector, they're in the government?
No, civilian.
The civilians, okay. All right, why don't you guys go ahead and talk about the Seventh Seal Summit?
All right, so this is our second annual summit here in Sedona, Arizona. And this year we're going to do it July 5th, 6th, and 7th. It's a 3-day event this time. Last year we only did 1 day, but we want to make it bigger and better and introduce you guys to more of the community that's out here and more about what we're doing behind the scenes. So we're going to have a sound journey, multiple sound journeys and sound healings, channelings, meditations, activations. I'll be doing a live audience read this year. This is actually the first time I'm going to do it on with a crowd of this size. So you'll have an opportunity to receive messages from the other side live in the audience. And Matthew here will be doing his a presentation on some of his amazing work. Was it the Saint Germain codes is what you're doing this year?
Yes, I'm going to do a big grand finale reveal on some sequence and numbers that are really profound. And furthermore, we're going to have a special guest. One of our secret partners is going to be there, so you'll get to meet him. And then additionally, we're looking at trying to get a keynote speaker. We approached Wilcock, we've approached Good, we've approached Emery, and each of them are considering. We've approached a few others that have agreed, and so we're fine-tuning that as we speak.
Yeah, Clifford Mahudi will be joining us. He's a friend of mine, and you might know him from Ancient Aliens. Awesome guy, super knowledgeable, really important community member here, and of course some of our other people that you've seen before, Light Star and Stands with Bear, that were with us and huge part of our tribe here, are taking the stage again this year. We have some other people in our community like Jason Stiles, the creator of iPyramids, that will be showing some of his technology. We have Tina DeFalco and Robbie Hernstad, who created Magic Life, who will be talking as well. And so we're going to have some very thought-provoking presentations, and we'll be doing a live deep disclosure guest panel where you'll be able to ask your questions and get some intel from stuff that we're working on currently. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the cryptocurrency that we've created. And we're really excited. And we also have a private VIP dinner, so you can have an opportunity to sit down with us in a small, intimate setting and discuss some of the stuff that you guys are doing and discuss how you can integrate more into our team on a working level. And then we're also having a VIP party, which gives you another opportunity to mingle with some of the speakers and us and go a little deeper.
But if you can't make it, there's a live stream version that you'll be able to participate in if you can't actually physically show up.
Yeah, so if you want to either get access to the live stream or purchase tickets to the event, you can visit 7thsealsummit.com. That's the number 7thsealsummit.com. And there's more information there about the schedule and all the things you want to know about what's going on here in July. And also on top of that, if you'd like to schedule a personal reading with me, you can visit DivineMsM.com. That's DivineMsM.com to reach out. And we'd also encourage people to register for our newsletter on DeepDisclosure.com. And we put up a lot of our guest appearances on there so you can keep current. And we are currently a part of the shadow ban that's going on YouTube.
I hear you there.
On YouTube. So if you want to stay current, please subscribe to our channels and to our newsletter because we are getting shut down publicly.
And one other thing about Ascension technology, the seventh seal accelerates your conscious awakening. You can learn more about that at this website, which is 7sealcodes.com. And even some of our top partners have experienced putting the symbol underneath their pillow. Wow, does it give you lucid, livid, like intense dreams? So if you haven't worked through your fears, you might have to take a look at that first. But once you do, boy, the depth of insights and things that show up are pretty profound.
I can back that up because I've been putting it under my pillow too, and it's been crazy stuff.
Right on.
All right, if that's all you guys got, I guess we'll close out the show.
All right. Well, we really enjoy talking with you, Dan, and all of your listeners, and we're honored that you asked us to come back, and we'd love to share anything we have with you.
Well, the last thing is we're going to start doing a deep disclosure show on Fringe.fm. We're going to have our own radio show that we're going to do more consistently. Seeing as we're being banned on YouTube, we're going to reach out in other ways and hit a variety of platforms in a radio format. So we look forward to having you call in and tune in.
Yeah, and we'd love for you to come on that show as well, Dan.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to.
Okay, fantastic. Well, this has been a great thing.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of good stuff here, so I think that's enough for people to digest today. So we'll let you guys go. We've probably been at it here a little hour and a half. Thank you for joining me on Talk is Cheap, where cheap is talk and talk is cheap. Of course, all the links will be in the description if you didn't get them as we went through the show here, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks for listening. Visit K2D4Network.com today.